Hi, I'm Tracey Spicer. This week, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the reasons why Australians are withdrawing more of their early superannuation and the impact this will have not only on them individually, but also on the broader economy. To talk about this is someone who's looked at it very deeply, Ross Clare from the Association of Superannuation Funds of Australia. Hi, Ross.
Hi.
Roughly how many Australians have applied for this early release so far?
The estimates are still a bit approximate and they're changing every day, but at least 2.5 million Australians have applied. The number of applications going to funds has been a bit higher than that because some people have their superannuation spread over more than one fund. And actually, since 1 July, some individuals, 350,000 on the first day or two that applications for the second tranche were open, applied for a second amount up to $10,000, which is $20,000 in total.
And how much has that exceeded the government's predictions?
By quite a bit. Originally, the government was talking about 1.6 million Australians. They did broaden the criteria a bit to allow temporary residents to apply, so that would have boosted the numbers a bit. But I think everyone agrees that the drawdowns have been higher than expected. It has resonated with Australians, and they're certainly an economic environment where there is, for many people, a lack of income, and they've been looking to getting money wherever they can.
Is it predominantly young people, and what industries are we seeing this happen more in?
Yeah, figures from Australian Taxation Office clearly indicate that a majority of the applicants have been aged under 35, and they make up about 40% of the workforce. So high incidence there, and it partly follows the industries that people are in. Retail and hospitality are particularly affected, and they're industries where young people tend to be employed. So it's partly the industries affected, and maybe those individuals have less other savings. Our work shows that the predominant financial assets for young people in particular is superannuation.
Yeah, there was a story on 60 Minutes recently about young women getting out super early to spend it on plastic surgery. Yet your research actually shows that there are more men taking out their superannuation early. What do you put that down to?
Well, a variety of possible reasons. On the whole, women may be better managers of their money. It's partly also the balances people have. Women on average have less super than men. And it's also who might be the primary income earner in a household. But, there's been hopefully the bulk of people taking money out have been taking it out for good reasons. There have been some cases, and 60 Minutes certainly illustrates some of them, where you would say the expenditure on the designer shoes or whatever, not essential. And we also have a case of a male in a recent court case. He took out the $10,000 and spent it on heroin. So there's some disturbing cases, but hopefully the great bulk are using it for the necessities of life, paying the rent, paying the mortgage. It is the individual's money. It is up to them how to spend it. But it also shows why preservation has been an important underpinning of the compulsory system. Not everyone does the right thing if they have access to money, and you really need a scheme designed to make sure that people only access money in times of need. And the current early release has an expiry date coming up in September, so that's part of the design.
Fast forward, what impact is this likely to have on this younger demographic when they reach retirement?
Well, power of compound interest, the younger you are, the greater the impact. ASIC, in its Money Smart calculator, has come up with some conservative estimates going forward for someone age 30 when they retire at age 67. Taking out $10,000 leads to $21,500 less in today's dollars. And that's a pretty conservative way of putting it, both their investment returns and today's dollars. Take out $20,000 and you double that, it's sort of $43,000 impact on eventual retirement savings. And that's a substantial change. People, of course, may try and put in the money at a later stage they've taken out, but the reality is that many working Australians won't do that because they can't afford to, or they see other priorities along the way.
I see ASFA's lobbying the government to bring forward the increase to 12% on the super guarantee. How likely do you think that's going to happen?
Well, I think our emphasis is on keeping the scheduled increases to 12% in place. There's been a few commentators who've never been keen on compulsory super from the start, who have questioned the need for the increase to 12. But I think that the recent developments, including the money drawn down by individuals, emphasises the importance of compulsory super and the need to get to 12%. We need that so that the money taken out by many people is partly replaced, and also, importantly, it's needed so that people will have the lifestyle and retirement that they deserve and need.
This is rather a big picture question, but what do you say to those who contend that perhaps superannuation isn't the answer? Maybe we should increase the pension or even move to a universal basic income that some countries are considering or doing at the moment instead.
Well, I think when you look at the other countries and their experiences, many of those other, you have high replacement rates of income in retirement in many of the Western European countries. And you have to look at their economies, look at their overall tax rates. They're not doing too well. Australia is generally regarded as an example of how to put in place a sustainable system. And in terms of our expenditure on the age pension, we're keeping that under control. Where we've done less well is in terms of adequacy of retirement incomes, and that's where superannuation, the compulsory system, in conjunction with the age pension, will really do the heavy lifting going forward. I think we have a model that other countries envy, and really we need to sustain and reinforce that model.
This is a bit of crystal ball gazing, so forgive me for it. If JobKeeper ends in September and there is some discussion that it might be extended, where will Australia be later this year and next year, in your opinion?
It's going to be challenging times, clearly. But when you have a look at the international experience and IMF forecasts, Australia is actually doing pretty well compared to quite a few of the other countries, just about anyone else. The recent flare-ups in terms of infections are, of course, a concern. But in terms of the overall impact to date, we've been doing better than other countries. We've been coming out of the downturn a little quicker, but still some way to go. So I'm an optimist. It's going to be hard going forward, and I think that there will be a need for continuing government income assistance. And really that's the role of government. They should be doing the heavy lifting. We have record low interest rates. Australia's debt levels for government relatively low. And so I think that in those circumstances, and they are very special circumstances at the moment, government should be doing the heavy lifting, and superannuation should get back to its primary role, which is saving for retirement.
To round things off, were there any other super changes brought in on July 1 that people should be aware of?
Fortunately, in some ways, there weren't too many changes. We've had too many changes in the past impacting on superannuation, quite a few of them adverse. And we had a couple of relatively small but still significant changes made where there's greater flexibility now for people aged over 65 but not yet 67, where they can contribute to superannuation without having to meet the work test. For many people who around retirement age and before becoming eligible for the age pension, that work test was a nuisance, a constraint. I used to get quite a few calls, emails from people complaining about the work test, and it's been opened up a bit. So that's a good thing. We also have the start of another financial year with contribution, a fresh lot of contribution caps, applying for the current financial year, and people need to look at those and see how they best can take advantage of the tax concessions, the assistance for superannuation that's available.
Ross Clare, thank you so much for your insights today.
It's been a pleasure to talk with you.